It's not working. Hello? Anybody? Got two people, right.
And this generation does not intend to founder in the backwash of the coming age of space. We mean to be a part of it. We mean to lead it. We set sail on this new sea because there is new knowledge to be gained and new rights to be won. And they must be won and used for the progress of all people. Space can be explored and mastered without feeding the fires of war, without repeating the mistakes that man has made in extending his writ around this globe of ours. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
It's spooky. My lips aren't moving. They probably won't either. Right, we'll pause that. Gentle music, bit of historic kind of ambience to set the scene here. And welcome to the launch of my new book. The book Viviane Schwarz and I have done, This Rock, That Rock. Okay, and I don't know whether that's back to front in this or whether it's just my world. I don't know. But we've made a book together. And it's not the first time that I've made a book about space. I've done another book with Jules Wilson, beautifully illustrated. Amazing. That's great. And I've also been in Watcher of the Skies, Spaced Out. And I've done lots of space things, worked with other companies and organisations to do space poetry. So I feel like I shouldn't be doing another space book. And yet in 2018, Troika asked me if I would write something. And I said, I've got an idea. And the reason I had an idea was because I knew that the following year, 2019, would see the launch, the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landing, the first Apollo moon landing, Apollo 11, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins, of course. And I watched something the other night and they said Michael Collins wasn't well known, but in every school I've been into, he's very well known to me. But yes, the moon is my moon. This is my moon teddy bear. This was illustrated by Nicola Anderson for a book that we did together called Tiny the Giant. And I love my moon. That's my moon. So we went to the moon in 1969 and we went, I'm going to show you, I've got props, dead professional this. Okay, dead professional. We went, oh heck, it's going to fall over. No, it isn't. We went using this. And something like 87% of this is fuel. Fuel, all that. Because the actual spaceship is just here. There's another little spaceship in here. Okay, so when it launched, what was clever about the Saturn V was, of course, that it split into parts. This was jettisoned into the bin with that. Then the next bit, that went. And before that went, actually, I forgot, this top bit went. The escape system. No turning back now. Then in Earth orbit, there's that. And then they leave Earth orbit, boost in there. And then they're left with just two bits. That and the other little spaceship So they joined, like that. Travelled all the way to the moon. That went down. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, got out, hopped about a bit, got back in, pinched a lot of rocks, lifted off. Joined back up with this bit. Flew, got rid of that, came back to Earth, like that. And then got rid of this, and came back with just that one little bit. Billions of dollars and an amazing achievement from 400,000 people to put 2 people on the moon. I'm going to read a poem. It's time to read a poem. I've got my book, I've got numbers here. My hands are shaking like crazy because I can't see anybody, I can't hear you all booing. But this one, because I thought we'd talk about what the moon is or isn't. So this one is called The Moon Is Not. You can join in at home. The moon is not a lump of cheese. It's not the snot that you might sneeze. It's not a plate about to fall. It's not a floating ping pong ball. We have applause. That's good. And Viviane's joined us. Hello, Viviane. It's not the dust from off your shoe. It's not a clump of sticky glue. No. Thank you. Thank you. It's not a ghost all set to fright. It's not a face asleep at night. It's not a marshmallow s'more. It's not a window or a door. It's not an eye about to cry. It's not a light bulb in the sky. It's not a hanky or a rag. It's not an empty plastic bag. It's not a hat of smoothest silk. It's not a pool of creamy milk. It's not the sugar on a spoon. It's just our faithful friend, the moon. And Viviane has drawn lots of very amazingly beautiful moons there. If you can see those. So the moon, about 4.5 billion years ago, big rock, probably hit Earth, knocked another one off it. I've done this in a video before, explaining how the moon came about, and that became our moon. And without our moon, that's why I'm inspired by it. Without our moon, life on Earth wouldn't be possible. It keeps us stable, it keeps the wobble of the Earth stable, and it keeps the seasons and the tides, and it's pretty good. It doesn't turn people to werewolves though, and it doesn't affect our moods. And James Carter's asked me a question about that, which I will answer later because James can't be here. James, the amazing poet, proper space poet he is, not like me. But I've got a poem, another poem. So this one is about the origin of the moon. It's called In Those Days. Before this planet began, it was wild, child. It was wild. Each rock would knock and crash and smash, and it was wild, child. It was wild. So bit by bit and hit by hit, each lump would clump and go and grow. And no, this time was wild, child. It was wild. And all in all, it made a ball on which we'd crawl and stand up tall and call it Earth. And it was wild, child. It was wild. Then when still hot, the lot got hit by a bit which didn't fit, so wham and slam, and soon the moon was hewn and shone, and it was wild, child. It was wild. It was wild, child. It was wild. And year on year it orbits here. No, not as near, yes, less and less, but you and me, we both still see the moon up in our sky. And it is wild, child. It is wild. So the moon, for me, has been a source of inspiration ever since I was little. And my dad bought me a tripod for Christmas. And I know it was my dad. My mum did pretty much all the presents in our house. But the telescope was definitely from my dad, because I think he wanted to use it as well as I do with my son. But and it doesn't work anymore. We've still got the telescope, but it doesn't work because he took the lens for, I don't know, something else. A little bit at the end was no longer works. So that's how we got to the moon. It's in those days. So I have another poem, which I will read in a minute. Okay. But I will be answering questions. So if you want to ask any questions in a bit, don't throw them at me just yet, because I won't remember. But the idea of inspiration from the moon is something that I pass on to my son, Oliver. And he goes moon and stargazing with me and looking at the moon. I drag him out on cold nights and we talk about it. And he humours me mostly. But I wrote a poem about him. And this is the subtitle of the book, actually. This Rock, That Rock, Poems Between You, Me and the Moon. And I wrote a poem called Between You, Me and the Moon. It gets darker later, now that your summer is here, but I watch cool winds carry dandelion embers to your hair, whilst the stars I used to sing stay faded in the air. We sit together less often, and tonight's moon is hard to find, but the old campfire still recalls your bedtime books in the theatre of its flames, whilst the snap of wet wood brings slammed doors to mind. You talk of new planets, as I try to hold to the old, and the light of birthday candles, torches in tents, and your bike's backlight takes longer to arrive. There's too much space, yet not enough for all you've become. I cannot keep you with the names of constellations, and yet we talk of everything between you, me, and the moon. That's about Oliver and about how kids grow up, I guess. And that's the thing about the moon for me, is it continues to inspire me in all kinds of ways. And when I started writing the book back in 2018, I set myself the task of writing 50 poems. I thought that was the number for the 50th anniversary. And as I was writing them, I didn't really expect to hit it on target. I thought I'd come up with a lot fewer. But as I got going, I wrote and wrote and wrote. And as Viviane will say, we got rid of some of the poems and replaced them with others. And she was kind enough to keep drawing. And she's been the most amazing, best person ever. And I'm going to show you something else, because I have two original illustrations by Viviane that she sent to me. And this one is me. Look, real me, Viviane me. Real me, Viviane me. I prefer that one. We'll hold that one up for the rest of this broadcast, I think. And working with Viviane, and she will answer on any questions that you've got after this broadcast. She will. It is uncanny, and it honestly, it's more me than me, and I think it's an incredible illustration. It's just, it still makes me smile. And Viviane will answer any questions, I'm sure, about the illustration process. And one thing that she told me, in fact, when we met at the it was the Clipper Poetry Awards, and I was there with James, and Viviane was there, and it was amazing, because she said, I've got the box that I carry around with me, that she'd cut up all the poems, not torn them up, cut them up very neatly, cut them all up, put them into a little box, and she carried that around in her bag, and then she would take one poem out, look at it, and illustrate that, and think about it, and then illustrate it, which I thought was just incredible. And seeing the illustrations come through over the days and months that we worked on this was just constant joy. And she even got to use her new chalkboard, which was fantastic. So this is another illustration. So this one was going to be, you can see the way she works. I mean, look, this is bits stuck onto a page, and I don't want to flatten it out for fear of damaging it. But we were going to use that as the cover for a while, but then we settled on the cover. I'll show you the cover again. Available from all but good. I'm not ironing it. Could damage it. Could set it on fire. I don't even iron my shirts. I've got a t-shirt here, and it'll iron itself over the next 2 weeks. And we talked about the illustrations and the cover, and Viviane did this cover, and it's absolutely beautiful because of what it means to Viviane as well. And I'm going to let her tell that story but it involves a childhood and a rock. Okay, and this rock and that rock. Oh, this rock and that rock. Whichever way you're going. It's a beautiful cover. Thank you, Julie, Anna. Amazing poet. It's amazing. Got so many people on this little launch. I didn't bring my wine. I've got wine. That's downstairs. I'm in my son's room now, where I go because it's nice and cozy and it's got so many soft furnishings that the sound shouldn't be too bad. So anyway, that's some of the artwork. I'm going to read another poem now. This poem. So this poem has a story behind it. So on Apollo 15, I think, I can be corrected, Charlie Duke and John Young did that one. And there's two poems about them actually. But this one, Charlie Duke went on a tour after landing on the moon and coming back. He went on a tour and he went to Nepal. And the children of Nepal asked him a question. One of them said, "Did you see my grandma on the moon?" And Charlie Duke said, "No, there was just me and John there and just two people on the entire moon." And Child was upset because it was the tradition that all the ancestors lived on the moon and could be seen on the moon. And it's a beautiful story. And Charlie Duke said in his book, he says, if I'd have known this, if that would have been part of the briefing before I went, then I would have been a lot more sensitive and answered it in a different way. But as it is, he didn't. But that story of the idea of our ancestors being on the moon, and when I look it up onto the moon, I kind of think all sorts of things. I think about my life as it's going drastically wrong at the moment, and how it's going to be, and what it might be in the future, and people who mean a lot to me, and people I've lost. And so for that child in Nepal to believe that, it doesn't seem that far-fetched. So this poem is called "Did You Meet My Grandma on the Moon?" She was like roadside dust when I last saw her, gathered upon the bed as my family and I processed past, saying our goodbyes, until the white winds changed and she was gone. Did you meet her on the moon? She'd have risen to greet you, lifted by the ancestors who once held her as a baby, and she'd have looked at you as she used to look at me when I sat upon her knee, to tell her of the dreams I had, of becoming an athlete leaping across continents or a racing driver, turning the circle of this world in my hands. But that was then, when she was here. So did you meet my grandma on the moon? And did you tell her of your dreams? That's a poem. I've missed a poem out. I've cleverly, super organised, numbered these. That's number 5. I've done number 4, but I've not done number 3. And I'm wondering what number 3 is. What should I have talked about for number 3? The other Charlie Duke poem. Okay, I'll read this now. So there's a quote. This is from a quote from Charlie Duke when actually not from Charlie Duke, from John Young. When they got out, they were the people. They were the first 2 astronauts to use the buggy. That buggy, great fun. And they got out. And I'm going to show you the illustration for this because, again, the illustrations make this book. They really do, and they're just so perfect. Everyone is absolutely in tone with the book, but also so much a part of Viviane. They're eclectic and yet they're unified in a style I don't understand. So you can get that one, and then you can get that one, and they don't look different to me. They look the same style, the same person could have only done that, and that's Viviane. So that's John Young and Charlie Duke, because anybody will recognise, bouncing around on the moon in their amazing lunar rover, the very expensive car, $1 million rover, as we'll find out. This is going to be a good day, Charlie. So that's a quote. That's an actual quote that you can hear if you listen to the transcripts. The rain can't fall and the sun still. I'll start again. The rain can't fall and the sun still shines. The wind won't blow and all the signs say, this is going to be a good day, Charlie. There are two of us in $1 million rover bouncing over craters the whole world over, and this is going to be a good day, Charlie. There is no road, there are no towns, there is no end, and nothing's out of bounds. This is going to be a good day, Charlie. We're going to explore and see new things. We're going to jump high and act like kings, because this is going to be a good day, Charlie. This is going to be a good day, Charlie. So that's poem number 3. I've got one more poem to go. How are we doing? I've got one more poem. 20 minutes already. Crikey. I was only going to go on for 15 minutes. I thought I'd do that. Right. I'm going to answer a question. So if you've got questions, start thinking of them. And Viviane's just joined us again. She's missed the bit where I talked about her. Don't tell her a thing. Right. So James Carter, poet, and he asked me, what are the greatest misunderstandings about the moon? Well, James, I'm glad you asked me that. He sent me an email before. He's at a party tonight. And I think the greatest misunderstandings about the moon are that it's got a dark side, because it hasn't. It's got, somebody's swearing outside. It's got a far side. There's a far side. So we're tidally locked, so we only see more or less one side of the moon. But the far side is not dark. I've got a question from Jules. The far side receives as much, if not more, I can't remember, we had a discussion about this on Twitter about 2 months ago, the sunlight than the side we see. So how did I come to work with Viv on this book? Well, I absolutely love Viv's work, and it's incredible. And Anna and Crocodile was out, I think it was even before that. So I'd seen her drawing some pictures of rockets, so it must have been when she was working on How to Go to the Moon, a beautiful picture book. And I knew that I wanted her, but also because of the way she talked about art. And I would have been happy with a single illustration, say, to do whatever you want. And that's what my words to Viviane was, do whatever you want. If you want 6 pages just to doodle and not illustrate a poem, that's fine by me. Anything you want, absolutely anything you want. And she did. She just went through and did exactly as she wanted and changed things, because I was changing a few things. We swapped a few poems out and she helped. She kind of it was a real collaboration with that. But I was in absolutely kind of determined that I wanted Viviane. And I asked her first, I said, would you, if I go to the publisher and say, can we ask Viviane, would you be willing to do that? And she was gracious, and I'm completely lucky. Has anybody got any more questions, or am I going to read the final poem? No more questions, right? If a question pops up, I will answer it. But this one is the final poem. I know that because it's got a number 6 on it. Dead organised. This is professional stuff, this. Okay, so this is called Future Moon. I was going to read a different one then. This is called Future Moon. And this poem actually came about really late. I was at the SCBWI conference, in fact, and I wrote it there because I remember being in the hotel room, and no, it wasn't. No, it was earlier than that. I don't know where I was. No. But Viviane, I remember I was in a hotel room for some reason. Oh, I know. Yes, I was at the conference. So I sent Viviane a message saying, I've written a new poem, and she insisted on drawing, 2 new poems, and she insisted on redrawing it. Okay, so this is called Future Moon. It's a 3-night stay at Tranquility Bay. Roller coaster rides on moonlight tides. It's a firework display, night and day. Dot to dot stars, a gateway to Mars. It's a chance to explore. Using less, giving more. It's a beacon of when, not a symbol of then. It's inclusive views, galactic news. Riding along with well-trained crews. It's learning new skills. It's wonder and thrills. It's the need to cope. It's the science of hope. It's the deep black sky, the leap to fly, wiser ways, the sun's clean ways, sustainable, attainable, reliable and explainable. It's everyone's footprint on a whole new world. It's everyone's flag flying unfurled. So that poem, Future Moon, just had to check the title, that poem, Future Moon, well, came about because a very clever man, scientist, James Carpenter, who works for the European Space Agency, read the book in its early draft and said he really liked it and it had made him cry, and he'd been reading poems out to his family, and he said, but there's only one problem with it. And I like it when people tell me there's a problem. Viviane changed, has got me to change the title of another poem. I'll tell you that in a minute. But James said to me, the only problem with it is that it's very much looking back and not looking forward. And there were some poems that looked forward, but he was right. There weren't enough, because the moon it's a part of our past, and it's also a part of our future. You know, we've got to make some really important decisions about how we treat the moon and how we use its resources, and because we're going to have to use its resources if we're to use it as a stepping stone for Mars and further out. But how we do that and how we be sensitive to it, do we treat it like Antarctica or do we treat it like an oil field, is a big question, and one that, you know, we're going to have to answer, hopefully as a world, hopefully as the human race, and not as one nation deciding to take what they can. Have I got a favourite illustration? Right, have I got a favourite illustration? Yes, I do. And perhaps it's the picture of me. 4 days, okay. But I like this. I like this page because this one is just lovely. It's just full of joy, and it just makes me smile completely. It really is. It's absolutely lovely. Right, Viviane wants me to read 4 days. It's not on my list. 4 days, not found it. Oh, and I like the illustration to this as well, because this has got a space rocket. How amazing is that? I love this. The energy of that, again, just incredible. Yes, yes. Is that your favourite, Viviane? I think it's Viviane's favourite. I think it's just fantastic. Right, this is 4 days. 4 days it took to the moon, my friend. 4 days it took to land. From lift-off to the end, my friend. A journey well in hand. 4 days it took to land, my friend. 4 days it took to go. 2 feet upon the ground, my friend, and then at last to know. 4 days it took to go, my friend. 4 days it took to see. A giant leap for all, my friend, for you and yes, for me. 4 days it took to see, my friend. 4 days it took to feel. 2 men upon the moon, my friend. 2 men named Buzz and Neil. 4 days it took to feel, my friend. 4 days it took to beam the photos to the world, my friend. And a lifetime then to dream. I've never read that out loud. I like that one. I like that one. That's really good. I like that. That's fantastic. This is a good book. You should get it. You should get it. You should buy it. It's available from all good bookshops and from Blackwell's online or wherever, basically. Or just pester me and we'll find somewhere that sells it. The bookshops that are still open have been really supportive, and you know, I've been getting messages from them saying that some of them are sorry they can't promote it because they're closed, and others that, you know, they will be promoting it, doing it. Right, I think that's it. And thank you to Lana, who's saying it's amazing, and he sent me, I think that is bottom. Oh no, it's a heart, and that's good. So that's me. This is my book. Please, please, please support it and share the poems. And if you want a postcard, just send me a message and I will send you a postcard. So you don't even have to buy the book. I'll send you a poem regardless of it, and I'll draw. I'm very good at drawing. I'm very good at drawing. I had to let Viviane do the illustrations because, yeah, but I'm very good. And thank you all for spending the last half an hour with me. And I'm going to drink some whiskey. Bye-bye. I don't know how to switch this off.